Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Council Cabinet of Wednesday, the 17th of December 2025. It's our last Cabinet meeting of the year. I'm festively dressed. I don't know about anybody else.
I just can't see it. I'm wearing my Quality Street skirt.
Very nice, very nice. Okay, we've got some Christmas gestures here. And we are here to discuss two really important key decisions, the proposal to approve changes to council tax support and, of course, the MTFP plan for the budget consultation. But first to the apologies.
Thank you, Councillor Peakfield. We've received apologies from Councillor Kozlowski. Apart from Council Cabinet members, then there's also been apologies from Paul Simpson, Chief Executive, and Councillor Lucy Kerr of the Liberal Democrat Group.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Do we have any late items?
None, Chair.
And receipt of petitions?
None, Chair.
Identification of urgent items to which call-in will not apply?
None.
Cabinet, do we have any declarations of interest? Thank you very much. So then we'll go to item 6, which is the minutes of the meeting held on the 3rd of December. Are we all agreed that they are a reflection of the meeting? Lovely, thank you very much. And as usual, the recommendations from Executive Scrutiny Board I will take alongside each matter. So straight into the key decision, item 8 is the proposal to approve the changes to the council tax support scheme for 2026-27. Councillor Dinser.
Thank you, Chair. This is the final conclusions of the council tax support scheme with the consultation that happened. The scheme is a means tested support for working age households. Currently, it has band-aid cap for 30% minimum contribution and 6,000 capital limit. Pension-age residents are protected under the national scheme, and this supports approximately 16,000 households at a cost of 14.85 million currently. The proposal within this report is to extend the cap from Band A to Band B and reduce the minimum contribution from 30% to 20%. The rest of the eligibility criteria will not be changed. Now, the benefits of this improves affordability and reduces arrears. And one of the problems we have is that council tax payments can be impacted. We will hopefully benefit by having expected lower enforcement demand and increase in financial resilience. We know that a 1% uplift in the collection equals approximately 1.4 million additional income. And this aligns with Derby with the comparator authorities. So we are a bit of an outlier at the moment. Our scheme is less supportive of people particularly facing cost of living challenges and people who are in work but also receiving universal credit. And it sort of certainly supports our council priorities in tackling inequalities and working smarter. So in terms of the consultation, there was strong support for reducing the contribution to 20%, strong support for extending the cap to Band B, and the voluntary sector partners highlighted reductions in crisis debt and enforcement. There were some minority concerns about affordability, but these were more than outweighed by the overall support. The revised scheme modernises and strengthens support for low-income households, reduces arrears, aligns Derby with comparable councils, and is strongly supported by the consultation feedback. Now, in terms of local government reorganisation, it better aligns, if we support this today, it better aligns ourselves with other authorities in terms of their council tax support schemes. I think, and the challenge of people finding difficulty through cost of living is there for all of us to see, and this will actually help more people who are suffering those challenges and be more helpful in actually collecting tax that we don't usually get at the moment. So I commend the recommendation, Chair, for us to support.
Thank you very much. Councillor Dinser, could you take your microphone off? Lovely. Thank you very much for that. I think it's important to also show that this scheme hasn't been amended since 2013. 12 years is long overdue that we looked at it, and aren't we lucky to be in a position as the council where by being prudent and with responsible management, we've actually been able to find ourselves in a position to be able to offer some extra support. And while we are still awaiting the eagerly anticipated news from government this afternoon as to what exactly our settlement will be, we do have had assurances that it will be positive for us, and the least we can do is pass on some of that to those who need it the absolutely most. I'd highlight the example given at 4.7, which shows that reducing the contribution from 30% to 20% means that many meaningful financial relief for many in the Band A category of council tax, their payment would fall by £439 to £292, so saving £146 a year could just be that difference between not being able to afford to pay and being able to make that payment. And it's our hope, we're not expecting it completely, but it's our hope that the cost of putting this extra support in will actually be seen in those people who can finally afford to pay their council tax. So we hope that there's a reflection there, and we will definitely see a change and a bit of a shift there. Do I have any comments? Thank you, Councillor Khan.
Yeah, very quickly, Chair. Just to basically echo your points, I had marked down the fact that it's not been changed since 2013, but we're not really doing anything drastic. We are bringing it in line with other authorities as well. And as you said, on the face of it, it doesn't sound a lot from 439 to 292, but it's a difference of sort of 140 odd pound, which is £35 a week, and that can make a lot of difference to people who are struggling to put food on the table.
Thank you. Councillor Hazelgrave.
I think it's really worth noting that the Equality Impact Assessment identified positive aspects or impacts across all protected groups, particularly disabled residents, lone parents and care leavers. Also, lots of working families are on universal credit, and they will be finding, so if they've got a number of children in the household, we know that the cost to bring up a child over its age from 0 to 18 is something like £70,000. It helps with them being able to meet their demand for paying council tax, keeping their head above the water, having the dignity that they've got that support, and I fully support this move, which has been overdue for certain years, with a cost of living crisis brewing over quite a few of those years.
Councillor Anwaha.
Thank you, Chair. Earlier on, you mentioned hope, and I see that there's a lot of conversation around hope. But the thing is, what this recommendation does is to build hope in families that they're able to get something extra for themselves, for their kids. Like Councillor Khan has said, it comes down to about £35 a week. Whilst that may not be much to a lot of people, however, to families who are on the edge, it's just that little extra hope that it brings to them, that they can have something extra for their families at the end of the week, even for the kids. Even if it's just an extra cone of ice cream in the summer, or just whatever it is, but at least we are, by our actions, bringing just that little ray of hope into families, into their living rooms, and it's commendable that we should do that.
Thank you. Did you want to come back in, Councillor Dinser?
Yeah, I think colleagues have mentioned really some positive aspects of this scheme, changing the scheme and sort of making it more available to more people with cost of living challenges and problems, particularly as Councillor Hazelgrave mentioned, for children, families with young children who are working earning a living. But I think most importantly, in terms of financial responsibility and probity, 7.3, I think, paragraph is really relevant in the fact that the cost of this scheme, by making it more generous, would be £1.3 million based on 24-25 collection rates. But if this enables more people to pay their council tax, and even if we get if collection improves by 1%, this will generate approximately 1.4 million additional income across the council tax base. And I know that we are working hard to look at how we can increase our council tax collection and possibly go beyond that 1%. So there are some really relevant financial reasons, as well as all the equality reasons that we mentioned for changing the scheme, making it more available for more people who are finding it difficult to survive financially.
Thank you, Councillor Dinser. And I think that's the important point here, and why we've taken this decision, is that we're looking at where the need is. You know, that 1.4 million pounds is equates to the same amount that we lose, and that we did lose in the 25-26 budget because of the decision of the opposition to not raise council tax to the maximum. Now, if we can bring that back in by actually investing a similar amount to support people where there is need, I think that's the most important place that we can put our money. I'll also point out 10.3, because there is a lot of misinformation about people that claim council tax support, but actually 40% of those who claim council tax support are in work, and almost half of those have children. And we're talking about low-income families. They are working families, but they are on a low income, so they're already struggling with rising cost of living and childcare costs. 60% of council tax support customers receive a disability benefit, and 20% of those households have children as well. So we're talking about doing our bit to help tackle child poverty in our city as well. So I'm really proud that we've taken this decision. I think it's been the right thing to do. As we said, it brings us in line with other councils. I hope that in the future we may be able to do more. But we do have local government reorganisation looming over the hill as well, and we have put in those considerations into our papers going forwards as well. And it will actually make our job easier over the next couple of years because we've brought ourselves in line with other councils, hopefully to be able to smooth that transition when that happens. So, thank you for the contributions. Thank you very much for the reminder. The Executive Scrutiny Board resolved to agree that Council Cabinet be asked to ensure that the information about Council Tax Support Scheme provided alongside Council tax bills makes clear that all Council taxpayers can apply for the scheme, although the payments are calculated against a maximum of Band B charge. So it's a relevant point to be made, and I thank the Executive Scrutiny Board for raising it. Anybody can apply for support from the council tax scheme. It just depends, it's just capped, isn't it, at that Band B, and depending on their financial situation. So absolutely happy to make that completely and utterly clear when we're sending out the council tax bills. Because again, it's a misinformation thing, isn't it, or an assumption that only people in Band A or B can apply. That's not the case. Anybody can apply. Okay, so we'll accept that that recommendation from Exec Scrutiny, and I'll move to the recommendations 2.1 to 2.4. Are we all in agreement? Thank you very much. Okay, and the other item of the day is the medium-term financial plan 26, 27 and 28 to 29, budget consultation. In Councillor Kozlowski's absence, I hope she's enjoying her holiday right now, it falls to me to introduce the item. So, this report outlines proposals for the Council's new 3-year medium-term financial plan, including detailed plans for a balanced budget for 26-27. This budget will continue to protect essential services in the face of ongoing national challenges, as well as highlighting areas for future investment. The report is written amidst significant funding reforms of the sector, much welcomed reforms, which will provide multi-year settlements for local government and a redistribution of funding aligning resource with need. Derby has suffered greatly from the historic injustice of the funding system, delivering over £280 million of savings over since 2010, and welcomes the opportunity to invest back into those services that support our most vulnerable and are important to our residents and deliver a city to be proud of. Local government is an essential part of the foundations of our society, running around 800 essential services and supporting the most vulnerable. It's welcoming to see that the government has recognised the scale and issues facing local government, acknowledging that demand and costs of services have increased significantly, compounded by national fiscal challenges and spiralling inflation. The Council's ambitions are set out in the Council Plan 25 to 28, which is entitled Together We're Building a City to be Proud of. And that's framed around our priority themes of inclusive, green, growth, vibrancy and a connected council. Our MTFP underpins delivery of the Council Plan and the city outcomes to be achieved. The Council plans to commence a budget consultation on the 18th of December, ending on the 16th of January, and the proposals contained within this report. The engagement will also include an opportunity for residents and partners to comment on what services are important to them and where the Council should invest should the government financial settlement provide additional funding than that assumed in this report. The financial landscape for councils remains extremely challenging across the UK. Increases in demand, inflation, interest rates and prices have made it much more expensive to provide the essential services and support Derby's most vulnerable citizens. Over the past 14 years, Derby, like many other councils, has experienced a significant increase in demand for services, such as adult social care. Spending has risen by 101 million, that's 48%, with 60 million of this increase occurring since 2021. As a result, the council has delivered savings of around 112.5 million since 2016-17. The proposals include a robust 3-year medium-term financial plan from 26-27 to 28-29, and that would see £26 million of additional revenue invested into Derby next year, with plans for a further £33 million during the following 2 financial years. The report also details a very ambitious capital programme of £155 million next year, with an additional £132 million over the following 2 financial years. We're investing £12 million into people services, ensuring that we have good quality services providing care and support to our most vulnerable, and are investing just under £1 million into the workforce in those services to ensure that capacity reflects demand and we continue to improve efficiencies. Other revenue and capital investments include £2.3 million into a new food waste collection service, investment into our fleet maintenance, a new depot for a new highways hub, a new crematorium, continued additional investment into our parks and open spaces, support for a new private leasing scheme that will help secure additional quality accommodation and prevent homelessness. Crucially, for the first time in many years, there are no plans for staff redundancies or a reduction in council staff. The proposed investment into services will create more roles, particularly in areas such as adult social care. The proposed balanced budget for 26-27 includes savings of £7.756 million, mitigating the budget gap that was predicted in October's MTFS. The savings will be achieved through continued controls on spending and careful financial management, as well as through innovative projects such as the Council's pioneering AI programme, which is predicted to bring savings of almost £1 million. However, the government is proposing a change in the way the councils are funded through their fair funding reforms. Those reforms are aimed to simplify the system, moving to a multi-year funding allocations and make sure that funding goes to the areas that need it the most, and to ensure that all councils have the necessary funds to provide essential services. The finer details of the new system will be revealed imminently, but any additional funding could allow Derby City Council to invest in services for the first time in recent years. Key areas for proposed investment align with the council plan, which sets out priorities from 25 to 28, and include work to make communities and the city centre feel safer, collaboration with partners to reduce poverty, and continued work to address rising costs and demand to support the city's most vulnerable residents. The MTFP also has a strong emphasis on building resilience and reserves in the face of ongoing challenges facing local government. After delivering more than 260 million in savings since 2010, we're thrilled to be in a position where we could be seriously investing back into our city. Our proposals demonstrate that our mantra of responsible leadership has paid off. Once again, we can deliver a balanced budget while continuing to prioritise putting people first and building a city to be proud of. Protecting our most vulnerable residents, creating a vibrant city and reducing poverty have always been priorities for us, and these proposals allow us to continue our work in these key areas and, of course, many more. This year's proposals would see council tax increase by 4.99%, and 2% of that is ring-fenced, of course, for social care. That is the assumption used by the government in its funding allocation and is a necessary step in supporting a balanced budget. Proposals to expand Derby Council's tax support scheme, which we've just approved, already benefits nearly 17,000 households, and these obviously were well received in our public consultation. Alongside the budget proposals, Cabinet members will also be asked to approve implementation of the revised council tax support scheme, which could see a further 1.4 million of additional relief for more households with the lowest incomes. Of course, this was written before we just approved it. It's now essential that the people who live, work and study in Derby join the conversation and help us to shape the budget for 26-27. What they will find in this budget is more opportunity for conversation and for them to look at our themes of where we are focusing our spending and to expand their thoughts into that, as opposed to the usual line-by-line breakdown. And the reason for that being that we just simply do not know what that fairer funding settlement will be until later today. So it would have been impossible to have gone out to consultation on things that we just don't we can't yet bake into a proposal. So we will be listening really, really carefully. We will be looking carefully at that feedback from the consultation, and we will be working that into our final proposals that we will be working really hard on between January and February of 2026. So with that, I'll pass over for your comments, Cabinet. Thank you. Councillor Heselgrave.
I fully support the recommendations for this item. I'd like to draw attention to some items in the appendix. Appendix 2 on page 59 relating to children and young people. We have received a grant of £500,000 from the government to support our unaccompanied asylum-seeking children, of whom we are corporate parents and will remain so until they're 25. These young people have obviously gone through a lot of trauma to get here. They were unaccompanied, so they've done it on their own. They've gone through several countries, at least, and may have had the ordeal of crossing the channel in those small boats. They arrive with a firm expectation and resolve to become full members of this society that they have now become part of. And they are very aspirational in terms of what they want to do with their lives and how they want to make the best way in life through work. So it's really pleasing to receive that grant and give them as much of a good start as we can in their new life in Britain. Home to school transport is worth noting. We've saved over £500,000 on that by securing a really good contract with a firm in Nottingham to provide that home to school transport. I do understand that although it's a Nottingham contract, many of the drivers who actually deliver this service live in Derby. So it's not a question of fleets of taxis coming over from Nottingham. Just so that people are clear when it comes to expenditure on schools, which you will find on one of the pages at the back. Specific schools are mentioned in terms of, yes, on pages 66 to 67, it mentions some specific schools, secondary and primary, and some works to be done to improve the schools and the fabric of the schools. I should point out that all those schools are our maintained schools. It doesn't mean that the trust schools in the city aren't getting a refurbishment plan, but that's for each trust to work with the government on. So please don't think, if you're reading it, oh goodness me, only maintained schools are getting money from the council. Only maintained schools can get money from the council for refurbishment. They're our buildings, whereas obviously trusts have their ownership of the building themselves and responsibility for the maintenance and upkeep of them. So I just wanted to clarify that in case we get a sudden flurry of why hasn't our school got some money from the council, when in fact it's a trust school. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I welcome this budget, and as you said, we look forward to receiving comments, and I'm sure all of us would encourage people in the city to respond to the consultation, because we genuinely want to hear what people have got to say about the budget proposals. And I'd like to take this opportunity, as I sometimes occasionally do from time to time, to thank the people of Derby for their contributions to the adult social care, or to the social care precept. £20 million of counter-tax receipt now annually is spent on social care through that precept. So people should be aware that you know, a decent whack of what they pay is going to social care, and they are helping vulnerable and often elderly also people in the city through that contribution. Sometimes it's claimed that this is a relatively small number of people. Well, it's a relatively small number of people fortunately in receipt of high-cost care packages, but the service as a whole covers the large parts of the city, and actually many people will find themselves in at some point in their lives in need of support from the council's adult social care service. So it is a service that we want to deliver. It is a service that people would want us to deliver, and unfortunately costs are rising in that area though. So we are very mindful about efficiencies, and what I'm really pleased about in this budget is when you talked about the investment in jobs in adult social care. You know, some of these are in key areas, and they're areas which will have a huge significance on the effectiveness of the service, but they're also linked to year-on-year annual savings. So the plan will be that, for example, in occupational therapy services, that we'll have more occupational therapists who will improve the service, and yet they will thereby be able to save money and improve people's quality of life. And the same goes for the admin function. You know, sadly, you know, the admin side of things in adult social care does need refreshing and expanding. And probably this should have happened before, but the funds haven't been there. And as you said, because we've got this little bit of leeway in this budget, we can hopefully make these changes which will be better for people and save money year on year. And we need all of that funds from the council tax, as you say, and as much as we can from the government to both improve the services, but also invest to save later on. And that's what the plans are in this budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dinser.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think in my long years of working, sort of being a councillor and looking at many budgets, this will be the first budget where we are looking for not making cuts to our workforce, and the investment from central government has meant that we are in a positive position of looking to see how we can actually improve services and mitigate from some of the challenges that exist, particularly in social care, adult and children. So, and that commitment from central government, which has not been there before, has already made a massive difference. And this particular budget, which would be the start of a 3-year planned funding allocation, is something that will provide stability in terms of how we manage and how we plan strategically. And that's not happened for a long time. And I can't remember, the officers might be able to tell me, when there was the last time we were in a position where we were not looking at making cuts in workforce in public services, which are badly needed out there. But this paper also highlights that we're not complacent. We still want to make sure that if we can find savings and efficiencies, we do so. And on 4.77, I'd like to bring to attention that the AI transformation target will still be looking at nearly £1 million contribution in savings towards making sure we have a balanced budget, but we also free up investment to targeted areas where we can make a difference for the people of Derby, particularly those who are in vulnerable and need, but also people who are suffering the cost of living crisis. So this budget, in my view, is, after a long time, a positive position to be in, and it also does not, at the moment, as this report indicates, pay too much weight to the fair funding settlement, which will hopefully, and hope is not a bad thing in life, may add to what we can actually provide for the people of Derby. So this budget stands well on its own, but with any announcement that we get in the future, that may actually strengthen and embolden what we want to do for the people of Derby.
Thank you very much. Councillor Anwaha?
Thank you, Chair. I just want to commend the work that has gone into putting this budget together. And as been said so many times, this is the one budget where we've not sat down to say, oh God, where are we going to look for efficiencies? Because at the end of the day, and by that I mean with regards to jobs, because at the end of the day, we're not just trying to stack up numbers, we're also having to manage and balance people's jobs and livelihoods. And I'm very proud to see that we have a budget where no job has been on the line, so to say. But this is also a budget where, building from what we achieved last year, we can see what happens when there's investment, proper investment in public-facing services. I mean, we can see that with our grass cutting and green space maintenance. This year, there was no picture of people stood in high grasses, and that was because of the investment that we put in to the budget last year, and we're proposing to go even further next year. But it's not just the grasses, Chair, it's also things like our waste collection. We've seen through our careful management of Derby's resources this year a reduction or an increase of on-time collection of 98 to 99%. Now, that's been an amazing improvement because of the work and careful applying of the resources that we had. If you compare that to September to November 2022, where the cases of missed collections was an average of 19,355 compared to this year, where we had an average of 5,768. That shows that when we invest carefully and conscientiously into the right thing, we're able to give the residents of Derby the services that they can be proud of. And with what the planned increase in spending for places like Street Pride, we can only provide better services, and that is what people should. That's a hope people should have in this Labour budget. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Khan.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not going to repeat what everybody else has said, but I do agree with what's been said. But from the point of view for 12, 13 years, having budgets where we're required to cut £27 million a year, we arrived at a situation later on when even with them cuts in 2018, we left £36 million in reserves, and we came back with just about 3 million left. And to reach this point after that situation, I think is a testament to everyone's hard work, that people can look forward to investment, job security, and we have still not just maintained services, but improved them as well. And I think, you know, you and all the officers and the cabinet that have worked hard are probably feeling very happy at this, at least for the next 2-3 years. You know, we're not in any danger of having to make cuts or job losses. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Khan. I'm hoping we'll be even happier in about an hour's time when we know exactly where we stand. And Alison will hopefully have a smile on her face as well.
We'll take some back then.
So thank you for all of your comments. And although, and I thank Alison and her department for the work done so far, we do have to acknowledge that we've got some work still to do once those figures are released and we get to the nitty-gritty of what it exactly means for Derby. We hope to be able to make that as clear as possible, as soon as possible for everybody out there. Although Executive Scrutiny did not make a recommendation on Monday on this item, they did ask for a few items in Appendix 2, which is the pressures and the savings, that they were rephased a little to make them a bit clearer, a bit more plain English. So that was agreed at the Exec Scrutiny Board that would be done, and the report would be reissued with those minor changes to the appendix, and that has actually already been done, so I can confirm that, and if we could minute that, please, and so that Exec Scrutiny can appreciate that that's been done on their request. Thank you very much. So I then move to the recommendations 2.1 to 2.2. Are we all in agreement? Okay, thank you very much, Cabinet. All that remains is to wish everybody here and everybody at home a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. We'll see you in 2026. Thank you.